Hello, good people of the internet. This is Jed from Your Guitar Academy, and I'm going to be talking to you about the perfect guitar tone. Okay, so the perfect guitar tone, that's a big subject. I think, where do you start with the perfect guitar tone? It seems like an objective thing, but I don't think it is, because if you ask different people, they'll have a different tone that they think is perfect, or a tone that they think is ideal. I was thinking, what strikes me when I hear something that I like in a guitar tone? And usually it's a direct thing. So when I've seen people live, it's been an immediate response that I've had to the sound. So I didn't have to think, is it a good tone or not? It just hit me immediately. That would be one thing I would look for in the perfect guitar tone. Something that cuts to your core and hits you and kind of makes you feel something. So I like to, if I'm creating a tone that I want to, if I'm aiming for perfect, I think about my heroes, like who do I like and who affects me with their tone. So who are my heroes? I love Derek Trucks, Frank Zappa, Albert King, B.B. King, Freddie King. I can sit here and say a lot of heroes of mine. And so what do you do there? You try and emulate that sound, I think. It's a place you want to start. So let's start with the Kings, okay? So if we're going for like an old school electric blues tone, what do we want? Well, we need some gain, don't we? We need some distortion or something. Now those guys are, what are they doing? They're playing guitars straight into amplifiers. So there's not an in-between stage. So you've just got guitar, lead, into amplifier. Now, with the setup I have here, I'm going to have to use some pedals to kind of replicate that sound, which I think is fine, because we're aiming at something that we want to replicate. So if I turn this drive up, yeah, that's feeling good to me. That speaks to me, that kind of overdriven tone. Now, I find it difficult to play with a dry sound, so I need a little bit of reverb just to make me relax. Yeah, something that just trails off a little bit. I think what I'm looking for is something that speaks. So like I said, if you're listening to one of your favorite guitar players, it's speaking to you because you like it. So you want to try and emulate that thing and find a tone that you like the sound of and that will hopefully speak to someone else who's listening to your music. Now I think as well, what's important is a lot of experimentation. So maybe try things that you haven't tried. Like if you're using pedals, fiddle around with the knobs and see what happens if you... So for example, if you turn the tone kind of way down on this overdrive, it's going to affect how it's sounding. So let's experiment with that. So I've got the drive at like, what's that? 1 or 2 o'clock. Okay, so like I'm feeling Clapton. Like that's, immediately for me, that's an inspiring sound. I don't know why. It's that Cream era Clapton. I really like that. One thing I find is when I change the sound, it can change my playing immediately, which is really peculiar. But like if you have an inspiring sound, it's going to inspire your playing. So. I think one thing to bear in mind as well is if you're listening to your heroes, so for example, Eric Clapton, Cream, or I think about Angus Young as well, they were playing through amplifiers that were turned way up. So if you're listening to recordings, it might have a certain sound that can be tricky to replicate if you can't turn an amp up all the way. So I think they were using less distortion or overdrive than it might sound. So I think a lot of that's probably coming from the amplifier. Just one thing to be aware of. So I like that as like a lead tone. And for me personally, I like to, because my heroes were guys that just plugged in with just a guitar into an amp, I like to keep it as simple as possible. So if I can get a tone that I'm happy with as little pedals as possible, that's good for me. But that might not be the case for you. You might need more pedals, or you might want to use different effects. Again, another one of my heroes is Eric Johnson. So if you're going for something like that, you're gonna want to fiddle around a lot more. So what do we want? We want delay, and I know that's overdrive, but we want delay, reverb. Where's the delay at? So have we got 2 delays on the go here? We do. So let's see, so I've got the same tone as before. Well, I've manipulated this tone, so I've turned it back to 12 o'clock. Now, I think Eric Johnson was a big Eric Clapton fan, so some of that tone is coming from there, but he also loved Jimi Hendrix, so we might have to use the fuzz. That's sounding cool, I like that. Now, I know Eric Johnson uses 2 delays sometimes, so I'm not used to doing that, but I'm going to attempt it now. So what happens if we put this one on? Let's see. Oh, wow. We've gone to space. How is that clean? So I think, again, thinking about someone like Eric Johnson, he would use, I don't know if he still uses 3 amplifiers, but at one point he used 3 amplifiers. So that's, I think, like a clean sound, and then an overdriven sound, and then maybe another overdriven sound. I'm not sure what he was doing, but he had very distinct different tones. So one was very clean, and then he'd kick into another overdriven or distorted sound, and then he'd also use like a 60s fuzz face, which was a whole nother tone. So if that's something that you want to emulate or approach, you can do, and you don't need 3 amplifiers for it. But if you've got pedals, you can emulate close to that. So you can get like a clean tone, and then maybe an overdriven tone, and then maybe something else. So let's attempt that now. So we've got this kind of clean. I feel like it kind of changes the way I play. It's a lot softer. And then if we wanted an overdriven sound, let's try with this compressor as well, because I know that does wonders. So I'm going to take the delays off for a second. And you'll you'll probably notice I'm doing a lot of playing and just listening back to the sound to get a real feel for what I'm going for. So it's tuning into the sound you're creating and does it sound good? So let's try this compressor. I might turn the drive up a little bit more and maybe the tone down again. But experiment, try different things. And you can do that on your guitar as well, like maybe turn the volume down. I mean, in this case, I want it on full, but maybe roll the tone off. So I'm going to roll the tone off as well as on the pedal, just to give it that real warm sound. So let's try this compressor. Is it plugged in? I don't know if it is. No, it's not. So again, I'm just experimenting here, but I'm kind of thinking Eric Johnson overdriven solo stuff. Like that, to me, I like that tone. It's and what I'm doing here with the pedals, I'm just adding it to a completely clean amp sound. So it had no reverb, it didn't have any effects. It was just a Fender Twin reverb, I think. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah, Fender Twin reverb through a Tone X. So, like, that sounds good to me. I enjoy playing with that. Let's add this. Cool. So you can hear a difference there from this. It just kind of boosts a lot of stuff from the sound of it. I'm getting more. So we've got, what have we got? We've got attack, sustain, level, and clip. So I'm guessing level, if you want to change the sound but keep the volume, that's something to manipulate there. So. But I don't feel like we're going up too much. So also I'm going to add more reverb. Yeah, cool. I still want a little bit more something. So I'm adding more drive. Let's add more attack. All right, let's put on some of the delays. Yeah, it makes me want to play. So I think when it comes to the perfect guitar tone, a lot of it is exploration and searching, and you'll discover things if you do that. So don't be afraid to just try wacky things. Let's put so I'm going away from Eric Johnson now, I'm thinking of other guys. So if I use a uni vibe, I'm thinking like Robin Trower, you know, that kind of. So I want to take maybe some drive off. So I'm just thinking about guys I love and like their sound and getting something close to it. And then maybe mixing those things up. And you'll get more towards you, like what you sound like, just from the things that you love and mixing them together. So let's slow that down. What does depth do? I guess that makes the wobble more wobbly. So I want more treble, so I could change that in many places. I can do that on the pedals, I can do it on my guitar. So my guitar tone is on full, so we've got full treble from the guitar. I can do it on the pedals or I can do it from the amp settings. So Yeah, nice. So depending on your situation, you might not have a huge amount of equipment, but that can't stop you from finding things and being explorative. I think some of the best players have come from limitation, through tone and all kinds of things. The guys that spring to my head are Django Reinhardt and Tony Iommi. Like, those guys had like problems with their hands. Django Reinhardt was he had 2 fingers that he could play guitar with, and so that seems like a huge limitation, and it is, but he developed a style where it seemed as if you hear him play, you wouldn't think he had 2 fingers. Same with Tony Iommi, he lost the tips of his fingers, and so I think he made fingertips out of thimbles and the leather from his jacket. So he had to work around some adversity to get the sound and the tone from and create his style, basically. So let's say you don't have a huge number of pedals. In fact, I'm just going to work with the Tone X. So this is something I haven't done before, but we're going to try it. Again, I think it's tricky when you talk about the perfect tone, because a lot of that might depend on the style of music you're playing. So if you're playing country music, you might not want distortion, or if you're playing metal, you probably want distortion. So you kind of bear those things in mind. I can only talk about myself here, but I do like a lot of different styles of music. So here I'm working with a clean tone. So let's see what we can get out of this. So if I'm playing more in like a jazzy setting, I mean, that sounds nice the way it's set up. I think there's that classic thing of jazz guys, like a bit less treble. Now, a question I have is reverb. Yeah, there is reverb on here. So I am a sucker for reverb. I need a little bit of reverb on there. So let's try that. Sweet. It almost kind of sounds like a spring reverb. Is it? Is it still on reverb? Yeah, sweet. So I want a little bit more. So again, I'm just tuning into the sound and seeing if it sounds how I want it to. Now you might be like, oh, I don't know what sound I'm looking for. For me, again, I just think back to guys that I'm inspired by. So I was going to give the example of Joe Pass, but I don't think he used a lot of reverb. But I'm mixing that with other sounds I like. So if you think about someone like Joe Pass, guitar player I love. Again, I also love other electric guitar players. So I'm experimenting here. I'm going for a jazz tone, so a clean guitar tone, but I'm mixing that with reverb because I like how it sounds. So. Sweet. Yeah, I think a lot of this comes back to intention. Why are you playing? What are you what are you playing for? I think is going to inform guitar tone a lot. What I mean by that is, what do you have to say as a musician? I mean, is there a particular feeling or an idea that you're getting across to people? And if you know what that is, I think that idea will inform your tone. So I was just playing there really gently, and there's already a feeling or an idea there. So sometimes the tone can inform your intention, and then the other way around, your intention can inform the tone. A lot of this is exploration. So I think the idea of the perfect guitar tone is very subjective. But let us know what you think in the comments. Yeah, and like I said before, don't be afraid to experiment.